Now that you understand some of the basics of object-oriented programming and the theory behind objects and classes in our code, this video is going to show you how to write a class. There are two different ways that you can write a class in Visual Studio. The first is to create the class inside of the same namespace and file that you're given when you first start your project. So in this case, I have class program, which I know I'm given by default, which contains my main. So I can come down here and create a second class and then start building my properties and methods. Now, this isn't the recommended way to create a class, since a lot of the ideas behind object-oriented programming and the creation of classes is based around being able to reuse that code. So if we create a class in the same file, then we would have to come into this file, find just the particular class we wanted, and recreate the file so that we can then use it in another application. So it's not very advantageous for us to do this. So the second way that we can create a class is to come over to our Solution Explorer, right-click on the project, and go to Add Class. The Add New Item window will come up and already have class selected so that you can go ahead and name your class. So in this case, I'm going to make class report and click Add. This will go ahead and set up a separate class in its own file that we can see over here in our Solution Explorer, and so only the items for class report will reside in this file. So if I want to move class report and reuse it in another application at a later time, I can just import this one file that pertains to this class, thus keeping that idea of code reusability in a much simpler format. So as we move through our object-oriented programming concepts section, we'll look at various ways to create the methods and properties inside of a class. And so to get started, I'm going to create two members of class report, and they're going to be variables. So I'm going to name one name and one date, just two variables of type string. Now, one of the new keywords that we're going to learn about in this video is the private keyword. And the private keyword is an accessor keyword. And it allows us to determine or tell the compiler who has access to a particular item inside of a class. So by default, when there's no accessor word out front, things are public. And so public means that any item in the program can have access to that particular resource or that particular item. So over in my main, I have a public class, and the main would be able to access class report because it's a public class. The opposite end of this idea is the private keyword. Items that are marked private can only be accessed within the class that they reside. So this allows us to keep information that only belongs to a particular class out of the hands and out of the scope of other parts of the application, so they can't be inadvertently modified without going through the proper channels that we'll set up using properties and methods. So in the next video, we'll look at how to set up those get and set accessors for our public properties using these two private variables that we've created here.